Sir.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to begin by thanking the members of the task force for your important work on what is, I know we all agree, probably the largest strategic threat we face in terms of our foreign policy. We have to get this right. Just as you just said a few moments ago, we have to effectively counter the Chinese Communist Party. I want to thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have the honor, of course, of having you as a longtime member of RSC, and your leadership in this area is so instrumental, and all you guys, what you bring to the table. So glad for each one of you for being here. As you all know, RSC is, the Republican Study Committee is the largest caucus of conservatives in Congress. This Congress, we have 149 members, and y'all well know, I'm saying this for those who may be watching us, that we have separated this large organization into task forces, and we've been working in the 116th Congress in producing effectively policy manuals and prescriptions on all the greatest challenges facing the country, including national security and foreign affairs. Our task force on that point just released its important report, the RSC National Security Strengthening America and Countering Global Threats. This is the publication you're each going to get. All the members of the task force will get one delivered to their offices today. This is a really important document. It has nearly 140 policy recommendations to preserve American leadership around the globe, and you'll be getting those copies. The first chapter you'll see when you open your hymnal here, the first 28 pages are devoted to this issue, to China. And that's for an obvious reason. It's an explanation of our 48 specific recommendations on this point. And I want to tell you that you'll be encouraged, as I am, that the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, has already publicly denounced our report, which is a good indication that we're on the right track. In a nutshell, we believe the old approach to China has failed. And as I know, Chairman's made clear on a number of occasions, and all of us have, the idea that free trade and engagement with the CCP was going to somehow lead them to democratize or improve their behavior was clearly incorrect. In fact, the opposite has happened. As we know, China, under Xi Jinping, has become more aggressive on the world stage, and they've become much more repressive to their own people. President Trump is the first president in my lifetime who has brought moral and strategic clarity to the issue of our relations with China, which has been illustrated by his response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Congress has the opportunity to do more now to help push President Trump's agenda through Congress. We have some ideas on how to do that. I wanted to provide you very quickly with a few highlights of the China section of this report we just published. First, we believe we must oppose the CCP's attempts to reorient today's world order to one based on authoritarianism by standing strongly for what we all believe in, the American values of freedom and democracy and human rights and the rule of law and open markets. Second, we believe we must enhance U.S. laws safeguarding American intellectual property, modernize the Foreign Agents Registration Act, FARA, and ensure a whole-of-government approach to stop the transfer of critical technology to China. And third, we propose bilateral trade agreements with democratic partners who are facing increasing threat or malign influence from China, including Taiwan, Indonesia, the Philippines, India, Brazil, Kenya, and others. But the primary recommendation of this report that we hope that you all will carefully consider is the proposal to seriously sanction the entire United Front Work Department and senior CCP leaders, including members of the Politburo, for their malign influence campaigns and the internment of Uyghurs and the assault on Hong Kong. The strategy proposes targeted measures rather than broad-based tariffs that may actually wind up hurting the U.S. economy. As we like to say, our recommendations are tough but targeted. We think that's what's called for today. As we know, the United Front Work Department has been the CCP party organ responsible for political warfare campaigns and much of the disinformation connected to the COVID-19 pandemic. They are experts at subversion and oppression. The United Front is spearheading efforts in China to publish a new edition of the Bible with, quote, socialist characteristics. Can't wait to see that. It's engaged in a war on religion where churches have been destroyed, millions of Uyghur Muslims have been placed in internment camps, and Tibetan Buddhists have been brutally repressed. The United Front also runs a network of organizations within the U.S. which spy on Chinese students and American citizens and influence research at think tanks and universities. Mao Zedong called the United Front the, quote, magic weapon for the conquest of communist ideology. How frightening is that? It makes zero sense for United Front members to be granted visas into the U.S. or to have access to our financial system. A way to handle this may be to create a new sanctions authority to go after state-based disinformation networks which harm U.S. national policy and use that authority to mandate sanctions on the United Front. Congress could also require determination into whether or not the United Front or any division of it, including its 2 overseas work bureaus or overseas Chinese affairs and religious work bureaus, meet the criteria to be sanctioned under current authorities, including executive orders prohibiting cyber attacks, human rights sanctions under the Global Magnitsky Act, or recently passed Uyghur Human Rights Policy Act. At the very least, Congress could use these current authorities to study and make proper determinations about the leadership of the United Front. Sanctioning the United Front is not a mere symbolic gesture. It could very well disrupt networks of CCP, espionage, and disinformation in the U.S. Organizations affiliated with the United Front could still operate, but they'd have to disconnect from the United Front party architecture, and the United Front operatives would no longer be allowed to conduct their activities directly on U.S. soil. I'd like to again thank you all for your work, for Chairman McCall for your leadership in putting this important initiative together. The RSC looks forward to working with you all to pursue our common goals, and we hope you'll consider including a number of this report's carefully considered 48 policy recommendations with regard to China in your final recommendations.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson, and I want to thank the RSC. And I've been a member since day one, and it's really the conservative think tank of the conference, kind of like the Heritage Foundation. These are very practical and strategic, in my view. Very much looking forward to reading the report. I want to congratulate you on your immediate condemnation by the Chinese Communist Party. This report got immediately condemned. I think we've been in the Beijing papers possibly 5-10 times now.
I'm just trying to be more like you. Yes, yes.
And they follow this.
Of course.
This makes them nervous. This hearing makes them nervous.
It does.
That's
why it's so important.
It's because it's important, and we know it is, and the Democrats ought to be here.
They should.
They should be here with us.
And it means a lot when not only this group and all the experts and all of you guys with your expertise and insight, to also have a large group of 149 members of Congress who are united behind this. This is a big block, and a lot of us who are deeply concerned. And I hope they hear this message loud and clear. So
they're listening.
Yeah,
trust me.
We're behind you 100%.
They're listening right now. Their disinformation campaign you talked about. I mean, blaming the United States military for COVID-19.
Incredible.
Absolutely preposterous. And I liked your comments about the president, first one in my lifetime to stand up to the Chinese Communist Party. When he did the travel ban from China, he probably protected hundreds of thousands of lives in this country.
That's right.
And guess who criticized him immediately? The Chinese Communist Party and the WHO.
We're in good company.
So we are in good company. It's a badge of honor, I think, that we share. This report will be taken very seriously by the task force. And I want to thank all the members who participated in putting this together. It's going to be a great resource for our final report and recommendations. Any questions? Yeah, Denver?
First, I want to thank you for your leadership in the RSC. It's been really incredible to see what you've been doing in there, Representative Johnson. So I have a question for you about the sanctions. We talked about the United Front. I don't know if the American people know this. The data is old, but I think, what is it, the China's version of our Congress would hold $500 billion in wealth, right? And that United Front, right, and what they do, you have people that are actually in Congress that are worth over $40 billion each, right? That's why state-owned enterprises and everything you hear about is true. My question for you is, do you see a cascading effect if we had, because I absolutely agree with what you're saying, that we can stop some of the technology issues that we have with IP theft and stuff like that, right? But looking at the RSC report, what I think is so good is that if you start there with sanctions, we're able to get a hold on the technological theft that we have also, and also the data points you make in the RSC report. Do you have any comments on that and why that is so important to make sure that we go after those individuals that are using state-owned enterprises really as a cudgel against the United States?
They absolutely are, and it's fully sanctioned by the CCP, as we all know, and that's the problem. We have to call it out for what it is. We hear from all of our constituents and leaders in every industry who are deeply concerned about the theft of intellectual property. It's a big issue. I serve on the House Judiciary Committee. We have jurisdiction over some of these issues, and we've talked about many ideas to do it. We need bipartisan consensus to address that, and there are some sound proposals on the table. We include some here. But the idea that we could allow this to go much further, they damage every single American when they do this. When they steal and have open thievery of intellectual property, it hurts every single person in this country. And we have to recognize that, take it seriously, and make it a top priority. And again, I'm so glad President Trump has prioritized that. But it's going to take the momentum, the inertia that we have as us in the body here to push that forward. And so the time for this is critical.